Oh, that's crazy. Do you want me to show a little bit of the video that had all? I'm Sierra Torres, a junior sculpture major at SUNY Purchase.
Okay, so we were just looking at your work. Can you talk to us about it a little bit?
Yeah, so the piece with the bread and the fragrance beads, this was for junior studio, and that was for last semester, and this was just a piece that I was working on. And so how I started with the fragrance beads, that was just a very nostalgic thing in my grandma's house. I always felt like I had those around. I had just those 99-cent kind of things that you just smelled really bad and strong, but it was very nostalgic. And so I just started playing around with them. I just liked how versatile they were. And I started putting them into this bread where that was also very nostalgic. Wonder bread, not that expensive, but it's what you got at your grandma's or just in life in general. And so I put the two together, and I just really like the idea of repetitive action in work and how it kind of makes you want to eat it, but you're also repulsed by it. This kind of like creepy but intriguing thing. So then the video that you saw of it all together in my final review, I had a video along with a domestic scene that I recreated in my grandma's house. She always seemed to have the nativity set and like Christmas around 24/7 year round for some reason, but that's just how I grew up. And like all the like saints candles on the table, and so I just really wanted to recreate a domestic space in the art area. I had that, and then I also had a video going on that I created a compilation of also fish eggs, kind of different creepy things that resembled these fragrance beads, but also was, egg, fertility, growth, life, and had sound that I created over it where I was creating a scene in the morning. My grandma would wake up at like 4 in the morning to cook for us, banging pots and pans. She lives in the Bronx, so it's just like you hear the buses outside, you hear birds chirping, but you also hear people screaming outside. You hear, her novela going on in the background. You just always hear like that's just a thing that just really brought me back to my childhood and really brought me back to weekends or days in my grandma's house, and I wanted to recreate that, and I wanted other people to experience my memory.
Okay, so both the beats and the bread brings you home. So in the morning you will eat bread with your grandma, and the beats were always hanging out in them, so making them together and having that pattern was interesting aesthetically, but also you have connection with those two objects. How do you think this speaks to the Latino Hispanic community? By the way, you're, for the record, Puerto Rican descendant.
I would have to say that, yes. My father's side is Puerto Rican, and I am also. But yeah, I think the strongest piece of it for the Latino community is the sounds that I created. It was just this, especially people, I think, the Latinos in New York, if you're in the city, that's really, I feel like, I hope is something nostalgic to everybody, and the domestic scene that's where I connected, I think, most with my grandma. She's always in the kitchen. She's always was like teaching us how to cook and teaching us the ways, always cooking for us. We all were together at the dinner table, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I think just the pieces that you saw on the table that could kind of bring people back. It's like, oh, my grandma was like that. Oh, that kind of reminds me also. But, you heard like in the background, like Gordo y Flaca, like in the background with banging pots and pans. You hear the birds chirping, you hear the buses outside. I just wanted to recreate something that I felt close to home that I hope other people did too.
Do you think your piece, because it's, even though it talks about that, it does it in a really abstract way. And it also, you have this relationship with the beats and the little frog eggs and those other objects that mean fertility and kind of reproduction. Do you also attach that to the meaning, to the concept of the piece? Because kind of like reproducing, passing over genes, passing over culture, passing over memories.
Yeah, I think that is, I'm glad that comes through, because that is kind of underlying themes that I hope that people can understand from this, that traditions are passed down, culture, things from Puerto Rican culture is passed down, just different things that are regrown and reproduced, to put quite literally, through family.
Okay. So as we're talking about them, I guess we can.
Okay. Yeah. So these are prints of the bread, but these are the actual.
You presented the prints, the actual bread, the video, the projection, and then the installation per se.
Yeah.
That's pretty loaded, and I do see that feeling of, oh, this is so tasty. Like I would like to eat it, but also it's kind of disgusting to think about it.
It is the most inorganic thing. I was very tired of smelling the smell of Hawaiian breeze or whatever it came in. It was just a very interesting experience to work with it for so long.
And you had a create about this. How did that go?
I think it went pretty well. Definitely things that I heard that could be pushed forward, could be pushed farther.
You have this eyes, not your eyes. No. So yeah, you have the organic
Yeah,
circle eye reference.
Yeah, the crit went fairly well. It's definitely things that I understood that could be fixed, really pushing the domestic scene even more, which makes sense. And, not as an artist, when you make work, you kind of want to just show everything that you're proud of and show everything that you think makes sense, but less is sometimes more.
Yeah.
In some cases. So, but overall, I'm glad things came through that I wanted to through the piece.
Yeah, I definitely see, for example, this page. Oh, look at that's amazing. All this little relationship with the pattern you have. And as soon as the people, as the viewers see both of those things on the room, they immediately make the connection, which I think is really successful. But yeah, maybe with the family, because what I get, you get the organic, the reproductive, the offspring kind of sense, but the idea of the specific Latino family experience, I feel like you only get with the sound. But yeah, that is such an interesting concept.
Thank you.
So, you also were working, when I came in these pieces. What did this horse talk about?
This is latex that I actually have a mold of it. So this is a lace fabric that you have the mold of it, and you spread liquid latex on it, and as it dries, it comes out of this skin type texture. That is just how latex comes in this color, but I actually put makeup onto it. So I wanted it to actually resemble some sort of skin color where it's not necessarily just very white. I might darken them up a little more, but you can actually see the details of the lace a little better, especially when it's illuminated, when you saw earlier on the lamp.
Yeah. You also have these patterns which are like from cortinas and
And I think when I saw this before I was doing this, that's also another tradition and culture passed down where your grandma or your mom or your aunt or your cousin are going to be sewing, and they're going to be teaching you these things of, and if it's sewing, yarn, crocheting, knitting, embroidery, these are all things that are passed down from families. And I think, especially Latino culture, which I just found very intriguing, and I just wanted to push it further, again, going into the domestic space. So these would be wrapped around either the lamp and the chair. So because it resembles skin, it would, these domestic...
It will look like a figure.
Yeah, these will be kind of just figures that are, without using the actual figure, these will be people, and these would be families, these would be generations of women, of whatever Latino culture. It's just going to be generations of them being passed down from skin to skin.
That is so interesting. And this is your makeup, this is your skin color, which is also more personal and more cultural.
Yeah.
These are really, I love how, because it's something common to have families teaching these kind of things to their daughters, the mothers teaching their daughters, and so on. So it's kind of a general idea of how family and offsprings and pass on the traditions goes on, and then you draw something like the makeup or the sounds, and then you make it about the specific of the Latino family, which is really, really interesting. Like, you can relate to a certain extent to the generality of the piece, but then you get that little snippet of sound, and you're like, oh, that's a novela, and you also connect to that. So it works in many, many levels, which is really interesting. Is that supposed to be on the chair? Is it going to be on the chair?
Just how the latex would be more tightly wrapped around the lamp, it's also going to be wrapped around
I see.
and this is where it becomes more of a generalized female experience where, and it's also going to be generational and family oriented. I'm going to be sewing on different sayings, talking about a mother and daughter relationship that could be connected to people, people of color, and how they connect with their parents and how they connect with their mother specifically. And I just want that to show through this new piece.
I see. I'm so excited to see this. It's going to be an installation, right? Yes.
May 10th. Yeah.
Okay, so those will be the physical pieces. So now we move on to the videos. Okay. Okay, so can you talk about the concept of this piece?
So I was doing some research and I came upon something that kind of really disturbed me about Puerto Rican women in the 50s when they were trying to create the birth control pill. In America, they did not want birth control to happen. They did not want anyone taking it. They did not want anyone talking about it. So there was really not too many ways for doctors to secretly try out their new pill on people. And there's a documentary on PBS that I had saw, and one of the ladies who was a pioneer of the birth control pill, she stated something that kind of really worried me. She said, and I quote, "Where can we find a cage of ovulating women?" And this documentary kind of shortcut to a very stereotypical palm tree background, very stereotypical Spanish music, and can't even tell where I was really from. It's very, very stereotypical. And they went to Puerto Rico for birth control trials, and this is where it started. So there was a language barrier with the Puerto Rican women.
I'll put this down so you can talk better. Oh, just to bring it out low.
Yeah. I forgot to do it.
Oh, that's fine.
So they went to Puerto Rico to do trials on the birth control to healthy, fertile women. There was a obvious language barrier where they were just like, okay, they don't know English, they don't really know the side effects, and we're not going to tell them. And this was clearly a big problem. These women were so forward in learning about science and learning about being pioneers about birth control, but they did not know the side effects that this drug had in its early stage. And the doctors and scientists did not really care. So at the end of the 9 months, there were 100% no children happening because of this pill. However, a couple of women died. Most of them had very bad side effects like heart palpitations. They had problems just conceiving after that. So there were just a lot of problems that people put under a rug and went back to America to give a more safer drug to American women. And so I just found this very disturbing, and I wanted to create a series of videos that would kind of demonstrate that in a way, or just talk about women that this happened to, and just women in general, that a lot of people of color have been tested on by people that did not care. They just wanted to, at any cost, they wanted to make strides and make history at the cost of some people's lives.
There's some interesting topics in this. For example, the fact that you use eggs, which means basically a baby embryo life of a chicken, and how you use that as a symbol to talk about the fertility and the eggs of women, and how you do all these modifications that look so disgusting and aggressive, and also burn them as a reference to what could be happening to those eggs, and also talking about political issues such as how superior really Americans felt at that moment, that they were thinking, oh, we cannot put our women through this, but Puerto Rican women's, on the other hand, that's not important, they're not important. And also the fact that there was a language barrier, and they were not concerned about explaining any of this to them. And all those side effects, even women died. Was that like immediately release all that information, or did that came up later?
I believe it came up later. There were 3 recorded deaths immediately because of this drug. The drug that they used, because it was in its early stages, had high estrogen levels. And when you have high estrogen levels, when it becomes too high, you get problems with your heart. So they had problems regarding their heart, which cost them their lives. But a lot had these side effects that are not as detrimental to their health. But a lot of recorded women after, they did not say this initially, but when they try to conceive on their own, they could not because of the problems this pill had given them.
Yeah. That is really interesting. Did this piece got crit already?
It did get critiqued.
How was it?
This was the second video that I created in class. It definitely, I think, showed through a big interesting thing that came about it is the idea that this does not only just happen in the past. This didn't just happen in the 50s. This happened earlier than that. This has happened to
I mean, these are things that keep happening even in America. I remember how in the Bronx, in the lower Bronx, I guess, where it's dominantly Hispanic and Black people, we had water. Our water was like poison or something like that, and we didn't know about it until a few weeks later, where they gave news telling about it. And I was thinking, in what moment does this happen in Lower Manhattan, or in a place where Caucasian people live? Most Caucasian people dominate that neighborhood. This is something that only happens with us, with the people who the big people don't care about.
People of color had time and time again have the short end of the stick, and a lot have cost them their lives, which is just very sad to think about. Another thing we talked about in our critique is how this happens now, and with our new political future in the next 4 years, I feel like I needed to make a video like this because it is very real now, with how much people of color and Latino women and just Latino people in general feel scared for their lives and feel their lives are in danger being in America right now.
Yeah.
So I think it can go hand in hand with the past and the present.
Yeah, definitely. Now they're not even sure. Like, can you drink this water? Can you eat this food? Can you take this pill?
Yeah. Are you scared to walk down the street?
And there is definitely more fear on the minorities because of this type of thing happening previously. Yes, and have you showed this, I don't know, to audience that are from minorities or Latino women?
I actually showed this in a class by a professor named Genevieve. I showed it in the Ana Mendieta class. If you know of that artist, I think, they brought me into that class and felt that this could be relevant with that artist and just relevant just in general in the community. And I think I got a really well said critique just by everybody in the class, and they felt really moved, and a lot of people in the Latino community felt moved by it. That just a lot can be said and can go forward from
absolutely. And the thing about Ana Mendieta is that she's not scared of talking rawly and rudely about these kind of things. I remember that piece she made, that performance piece, where she was naked, half naked, laying on the table, talking about the rape victims at colleges, and it was so aggressive to look at it. And the same way it is aggressive to look at this, there is some scientific aspect when you inject that green lime into the eggs, and the sounds that it also makes. It's just you understand right. It's so direct. even though it's talked about it in a really metaphorical way.
Yeah, I think the aspect of how I like making my work and how the process goes, I really enjoy formally attractive work, but that can also have an underlying and scary, disgusting truth of the world, where it just has a way deeper meaning than just something nice to look at.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, so thank you so much. This was Sierra Torres, Future Sculpture. Thank you so much.
That was like a
I mean, we accurately successfully introduced it, so.
It's right. Hey, so you forgot. You're Puerto Rican, and
this is kind of important.
The whole reason I'm in this.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Sierra Torres. I'm a Puerto Rican artist in my third year of SUNY Purchase. I'm a sculpture major.
Great.